I've never lost a parent, right? And I didn't grow up with grandparents, right? So this was like my first like loss from like my most inner circle, like my holies of holies, right? Like this was like my inner space, right? So it was like, I'm still processing it. It's just been less than 2 months, right? But what I would say though is that it was beautiful. Right? It was just absolutely beautiful. It was beautiful because like I am sad, but I'm not in pain. You know what I'm saying?
Describe what you mean by that.
What I mean by that is that like I'm sad because, you know, it's like I'm not going to get the text messages and I'm not going to be able to like, you know, like show him, you know, just certain things that I'm working on, or I'm getting honored somewhere at Gracie Mansion. The mayor's giving me an award.
Congrats.
Thank you. And like, he's not going to be there. Right. So things like that. And, you know, holidays, you know, so those things are sad, right? You know, and God forbid if the Knicks wins a championship, you know what I'm saying? Like, yo, and I can't like text him to be like, yo, like, look at this.
Right?
Because I got a whole lot of trauma growing up in the 90s with him, with the Knicks. You know what I'm saying? Whenever the Knicks lost, the whole vibe of the house shifted, right? You know what I'm saying? So for this man now to not witness, right, the Knicks winning a championship. So please, Knicks. I mean, well, I would love for you to win a championship, but just not this year, because I don't know if I can emotionally handle it, right? But so things like that, that's where the sadness is. But it's not pain because I do not have any regret with anything. I have no regret. Like there's not a tag, maybe I should have. Or it's like, so I have no regret at all. Like there's not one thing that I can say tag like, you know, maybe I should have answered his texts more, or, you know, maybe I should have, or like, you know, this was an unresolved issue. Nothing was unresolved. I'm just really blessed from that lens. And then I also can see, because I'm sad, like, you know, the other day, like I was at his house, well, my parents' house, and, you know, it was my mother's birthday. And then, you know, and then I just like saw that he's not there. So then I went downstairs and I just started crying. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like there's those things, but it's literally like a crying of I miss you.
Right.
And I could just only imagine like now that this is my first like loss, and if there was unresolved issues or whatever, oh my God. Because I'm like, I'm hurting now, like from a sadness standpoint, but there's not like a regret of anything. Right. If I had some level of regret, like I wouldn't have been able to do this podcast. You understand? Like, you know what I mean? Like I would have been like, nah. It's like, yo, I'm gonna break down. I'm probably still gonna break down maybe, you know, here, but it would be tears of just like sad, like, you know, just like missing you, but not like, yo, when I was 17 years old, you know what I'm saying? Right. None of that. So there is like I feel light.
Was there any effort on your part to try and work through like unresolved stuff while he was here? Because I feel like one of the things that I've noticed as my parents have gotten older is like my mindset has changed around interactions with them. I'm slower to get angry and hold things because I'm just like, yo, like I don't like, not to say they're gonna pass tomorrow. But I'm seeing their mortality. Like, and I feel like as a child, you really, you kind of think of your parents as like immortal, for lack of better words. Like, they're supposed to be here, they're supposed to take care of me. But as you get older, you realize like, nah, these are human beings that legit have a end date, and holding on to things and having all this unresolved like trauma and anger and all that kind of stuff, can really make the grieving process, I think, like you said, a lot harder. And so I wanted to ask you, like, was there effort on your end to try and like work through unresolved stuff? Did you guys have unresolved stuff as you got older with him? And like, what did you do if you did?
Yeah, really good question. I think I really was in a discovery mode of understanding myself.
Okay.
Right. I got married really young. So I was 24 years old.
Okay.
When I got married. And I just remember, having a child, getting married. We had the child first and then we got married. Like, it was just a lot for a young man.
Yeah.
And then I had, my first child, I was 24, and then my second I was 26.
Okay.
Right? And then I was in graduate school, and then I had like a really powerful job afterwards, and all of that stuff. And then when I hit 30, then I like resigned from like this big powerful job and like, launched Gentleman's Factory, and I was doing it full time, and I was married at the time and all that stuff, right? So there was a lot going on. And then a really good friend of mine, one of my best friends, she's a clinical psychologist, Dr. Florence St. Jean, shout out to Florence. And she said, Jeff, like, you need to go to therapy, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, go to therapy. I was like, therapy for what? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I'm straight.
Yeah, like, I'm straight. And then she was just telling me, hey, like, you should just unpack a whole bunch of stuff, right? So then I'm like, okay, because she's someone who I grew up with, like someone who I just love so dearly. She was like, yo, like, you should check this out. And that's her space. She has a PhD in that world, right? So then I went, right? Or explored going. And I kid you not, man, it took me about like 18 months to start opening up in therapy.
Really?
Yeah.
So what were you doing for those first 18 months?
I just was like going because I was curious.
Okay.
But then I just didn't trust the process.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then I'm like, it was just like, she was just chipping, like the therapist was just chipping. And then one day the therapist said to me, she was like, Jeff, like, why are you putting on a performance in this therapy session? Right? Like, in our therapy sessions, like, you're like putting on a performance. You're working on this deal or you're working on that deal. And then you trying to, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, stop pitching me on something. Relax. You know what I'm saying? Relax. And then I was like, yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm working on, right? Like, I was putting on a performance. And then the therapist at the time said to me this, right? And this is what really is going to answer the question about my parent, like my father and mother. So the therapist said, hey, relax, calm down. Shout out to Black women, right? Black women be safe, brothers. Black women be saving us, right? Like, legit.
Bro, I got a whole story.
Yo, shout out to Black women for real.
Shout out for real, bro.
So then this therapist says to me, she said, Jeff, in here, and this was in person, right? This was pre-pandemic, right? Like 2016-ish or something. The therapist said to me, hey, Jeff, in this room, this is a safe space. She also said, your mind is on display, right? And then she said that, so imagine your mind on display on this table. And we're going to help guide you into some of the dark corners of your mind that you do not want to go to. We're going to turn on those lights slowly, right? You know what I'm saying? There's a dimmer. We're going to put the dimmers on, and then we're going to unpack those corners that you don't want to go into. And then we're going to slowly unpack it. And then we're going to go to every corner. And that way, then it'll be a lot more organized so that you can fully navigate your mind freely without the reservation of going to specific spaces.